Did you know that before starring in Spider-Man, both Tobey Maguire and Kirsten Dunst auditioned for roles in Final Destination? The film was even banned from advertising in the United Kingdom for being too terrifying. And what about the fact that many of the horrific tragedies in the movies were actually inspired by real-life disasters? All of this and more will be revealed in our video, Top 50 Amazing Facts You Didn't Know About the Final Destination franchise. Don't forget to subscribe, and let's uncover these secrets together. Here we go! 1. In the first draft of the script, the characters who died in the series were meant to be unrelated adults, not students from the same high school class. However, since the teen horror genre was making a strong comeback after the success of Scream, New Line Cinema asked screenwriter Jeffrey Reddick to change the characters' ages. 2. During the filming of the second movie, real logs were tested for the highway pileup scene. However, since the real logs didn't bounce enough, the crew eventually switched to using CGI. 3. A lot of fans believe that William Bloodworth is the very personification of death, or a major representative of it, because he seems to know so much about the mysterious deaths caused by this supernatural force. However, this has been confirmed to be false by the producers and actor Tony Todd. 4. In 2011, Warner Bros. Was forced to remove promotional posters for Final Destination 5 in the United Kingdom, after receiving 13 complaints to the Advertising Standards Authority. Complainants stated that the posters, which mounted in London buses and tube stations, scared their kids so much that the children ended up crying after seeing them. 5. The iconic Spider-Man couple, Tobey Maguire and Kirsten Dunst, were once considered for the roles of Alex and Clear in the first Final Destination movie. 6. Across all 5 Final Destination movies, the dogs were the only characters that the directors always kept alive.
7. According to director James Wong, in the first film, Clear's dog was originally supposed to die. However, test audience reactions to the dog's death were so overwhelmingly negative. Therefore, the director had to reshoot a few scenes to let the dog live.
8. During an online pitching session via Zoom, directors Zach Lipovsky and Adam B. Stein staged a fake accident to present their concept. Specifically, the fireplace behind them suddenly caught fire, causing everyone to panic. After successfully putting out the flames, a ceiling fan broke loose, crashed down, and beheaded one of the directors. This clever stunt convinced the studio to hire them as directors for the upcoming film, Final Destination: Bloodlines. 9. The main cast of Final Destination 3 had to ride the roller coaster 26 times in a single night to film the Devil's Flight scene. During the shoot, they even placed bets on who would throw up first, with actor Texas Battle getting the most votes. 10. According to the script, actor Devon Sawa, who played Alex, only needed to act like he was sleeping, but he actually fell asleep for a full 4 hours during the opening scene of the first film. 11. The hardware store scenes in Final Destination 3 were filmed in a real store. The crew was only allowed to shoot after business hours and had to return everything to its exact place when they finished. Because of this, the team constantly had to restock shelves during filming. Additionally, they had to turn items around to hide brand names, place objects in front of products, or cover labels with others, since the store didn't want its brand associated with a gory teen horror film. 12. Actress Amanda Crew, who played Julie, performed her own stunt in the film without using a stunt double. 13. 2 major stars from the High School Musical franchise, Ashley Tisdale and Vanessa Hudgens, both auditioned for roles in Final Destination 3, but were ultimately rejected. 14. Ashley Tisdale actually auditioned 3 different times for 3 different roles: Erin, Nadia, and Candace. She probably wasn't chosen because audiences were too used to seeing her as a sweet, dreamy Disney girl, so it was hard for the Final Destination directors to imagine her dying in a brutal way. 15. In the original script, Ian McKinley was written as a female character, while Erin was meant to be male. However, during script development, their genders were switched to create a more balanced character lineup. 16. Chris Lemche, the actor for Ian, had to learn how to drive a forklift for the hardware store scene. 17. Part 1 features the shortest opening disaster in the film series. The plane crash lasts 2 minutes. In contrast, Part 5 has the longest opening disaster, with the bridge collapse scene running for approximately 4 minutes and 44 seconds. 18. Final Destination 3 was originally planned to end with Jan's death at the fair. However, the subway crash scene was shot just 10 days before the film's theatrical release. 19. The characters Burke and Kimberly from Final Destination 2 were invited to return for the subway finale in Part 3, but due to the short notice, actor Michael Landis and actress AJ Cook were unable to adjust their schedules to participate. 20. The eerie voice on the roller coaster at the beginning of the film and the subway conductor's voice at the movie's ending were both voiced by actor Tony Todd. 21. In an alternate ending of Final Destination 2, Clear was supposed to be pregnant with Alexa's child. Out of pity for the unborn baby, Death would temporarily spare her life until she gave birth. 22. In the original script, Kimberly was written as a black woman. However, the studio later changed the character's race and made her white. 23. Initially, the filmmakers of Final Destination 2 planned for the elevator to go up and down several times before finally killing Nora. However, they changed their minds, fearing the scene might come across as too tasteless. 24. Final Destination 4 is the only film in the series that doesn't feature actor Tony Todd, either on screen or in a voice role, as he was tied up with a schedule for Transformers: Revenge of the Fallen.
25. Actress Ellen Rowe, who played Candace, is a real-life gymnast. Thanks to her real-life gymnastic skills, she was able to pull off the balance beam seen in the movie in a way that felt very natural and believable.
26. The bridge collapse scene in Final Destination 5 was created using a combination of techniques such as green screens, green mats, wires, and digital compositing. 27. The original idea for Final Destination, Bloodlines, was reportedly set to explore the dangerous world of first responders like police officers, firefighters, and paramedics. However, this concept was scrapped because the filmmakers struggled to develop a compelling 3-act script that would keep audiences engaged. 28. Actor Dustin Brooks was actually the very first character claimed by Death in the Final Destination series. In the first film, he played the male student who was sucked out of the plane when the window exploded. Since Dustin's role was only a minor background character, his name wasn't listed in the movie's official cast credits but was instead placed in the stunt team section. 29. Dustin's name also doesn't appear on the memorial for the 39 students and teachers from Mount Abraham High School who died on Flight 180. The reason might be because Dustin was just the middle name of the character, or it could have simply been a production error. 30. To make actresses Chalon Simmons and Yan K. Cristolo feel more comfortable while filming the tanning bed scene, director James Wong closed the set and only allowed himself and the camera operator to be present, ensuring privacy for the actresses. 31. Final Destination, Bloodlines was the last film featuring actor Tony Todd before his passing. It's known that during the production, his health had already begun to decline, but he pushed through to reprise his iconic role one final time. 32. The script for the first Final Destination movie was originally written by Jeffrey Reddick as an episode for the TV series The X-Files. The script, titled Flight 180, followed a character who has a premonition about a plane explosion. However, producer Chris Bender saw its potential and encouraged Reddick to turn it into a standalone feature film instead. 33. Director James Wong and writer Glenn Morgan were eventually hired to help develop the Final Destination movie alongside Jeffrey Reddick. Interestingly, both Wong and Morgan had previously worked on The X-Files too, which made them a perfect fit for the project. 34. Actor Devon Sawa almost appeared in the X-Files series in a few guest roles, but in the end, he chose to join Final Destination instead. 35. Since James Wong and Glenn Morgan were veteran director-writers from the X-Files, they decided to bring a few familiar faces from the series into Final Destination, such as Tony Todd, Forbes Angus, Robert Wisdom, Fred Keating. 36. The infamous log truck crash scene was inspired by writer Jeffrey Reddick's real-life experience when he got stuck behind a logging truck while driving back home to Kentucky. 37. Actress Mary Elizabeth Winstead originally auditioned for the role of Kimberly but wasn't selected. Later on, she was cast as Wendy in Final Destination 3. 38. Several accident scenes in the films were based on real-life tragedies, such as the massive highway pileup in Ringgold, Georgia in 2002, a Le Mans motor racing disaster in 1955 that shook the world. 39. Final Destination 3 was the first film in the series where the male and female leads didn't have any romantic connection. 40. To create a more immersive and realistic experience, the filmmakers of Final Destination, Bloodlines used virtual reality technology to simulate the scene where a character gets trapped inside an MRI machine. 41. The DVD version of Final Destination 3 included a special feature called Choose Their Fate, which allowed viewers to make decisions for the characters during certain scenes. Most of these choices ultimately led to the same ending as the original film. However, one unique option let the characters get off the roller coaster before Wendy received her premonition. As a result, the 4 main characters survived, and the entire movie lasted only about 10 minutes. 42. The bridge collapse scene in Final Destination 5 was inspired by the Tacoma Narrows Bridge disaster of 1940. This was one of the most famous bridge collapses in U.S. history, when the bridge was destroyed by strong winds just 4 months after it opened. 43. Actor Devon Sawa made a brief appearance in Final Destination 5 through a flashback scene. However, he wasn't paid for this appearance, because his contract allowed the producers to use his character's image in future installments without additional compensation. 44. The highway pileup in Final Destination 2 took place on May 13, the same date as several other tragedies in the series: the Flight 180 disaster in the first film, the roller coaster accident in the third, and the bridge collapse in the fifth. 45. Initially, Route 23 was originally called Route 18, a reference to the Curse of 180. 46. In the film, Route 23 is set in a fictional city in the United States. In real life, the scenes filmed on the highway were actually shot in the city of British Columbia, Canada. 47. Before taking on the role of director for Final Destination 5, Stephen Quale had worked as an assistant director on 2 blockbuster films, Titanic and Avatar, under the renowned filmmaker James Cameron. 48. Because actor Sean William Scott, who played Billy, arrived on set with a lip injury, the film crew added a scene in which the character Carter accidentally hits Billy in the face, which helped justify the actor's real-life injury. 49. The announcers appearing in Part 2 are real-life hosts from local news stations in Vancouver, where the film was shot. 50. The composer who created the soundtrack for Final Destination Part 1 tragically passed away in a plane crash before the film was made. And that's 50 amazing facts about the horror franchise that will always leave you feeling worried when you step outside Final Destination. Do you guys have any other thoughts? Leave a comment below to let me know. For now, bye-bye.